All right, number 4. We're going to do Trifurcated Strike with Mantis God. So this deck is definitely, I think, the easiest deck to beat the levels. Like, there's level 1 through 12 with up to 120 challenge points. And completing, like, through level 12, Mantis God deck, in my opinion, is the easiest way to do so. It's the way I did so first, and it's just seemed much more comfortable to me than other decks. It has the incredible card of Mantis God, which is essentially 3 power for 1 mana already, and every time you up its power, that's 3 more points, right? If it becomes a 2-1, it's a 1-1 with Trifurcated Strike. If it becomes a 2-1, that's 6 damage. That's enough to clear a normal fight as long as there are 3 open lanes. If it's a 3-1, that can clear a normal fight with 2 open lanes, even with the start at -1 health. Mantis God is an incredibly powerful card. So, what do we need to do with the deck? Well, we need to get rid of the ringworms so that Mantis God is guaranteed in our opening hands. That's a really important thing. Secondly, because you're guaranteed to get a 0 or 1 drop in your opening hand, and if it's the only one in your deck, you become guaranteed to get that. Secondly, we want to up its power. Thirdly, it would be great if we could give it a way where we can get its effect repeatedly, where if it dies, we don't just lose. Something that's easy to do in the Mantis God deck is you get one great Mantis God, and then it dies early on against the final boss, and you just can't do the 80 damage. So, kind of, if we had 2 Mantis Gods, or if we have an Undying Mantis God, that solves so many problems. So, Fecund Mantis God is pretty good. There's probably some other ways to get it to be great, but something that recurs Mantis God is ideal. The other thing is, Mantis God, as good as it is not a very good answer for the Grizzly Bears. Because its damage is split up between lanes, it can help another thing take out a lane, do the 5 damage needed, but on its own, it doesn't beat the Grizzly Bears. And, like, even a 3-1 Mantis God, right, is going to have trouble against Grizzly Bears. So, that's something to really keep in mind, is we have a card that is very good essentially for mobbing, for beating the random fights. An incredibly good card, the best card in the game. But we don't have ways to beat the other things. One thing to look for here is note we don't want other 1-drops. So, like, I've loved the Skink. We're not taking the Skink here. Field Mice has Fecundity. There is already a way to give Mantis God repetition. It's not as good as Undying, right? If you want to cheat this run, you should reset and basically you'd quit out and retry until you get Cockroach, so you could put Undying on it. That's going to be an easier way to play. But Field Mice gives it some of the second best recursion. Just having guaranteed 2 of them is very strong effect. And 2 of them makes it a lot easier because you can play them both at once, unlike Undying, where they just come back to your hand after each death. You can play them both at once, so if you can clear a lane, they can both hit that lane at once. So if that total can be 5 damage, if you get +2 to attack, that's pretty good. I'm going to take Alpha here. We don't have anything else that costs bones, and it can up Mantis God's attack, which can be another way to get through that damage. This is very nice first 2 cards. Not like the perfect first 2 cards, but very nice first 2 cards. Our main goals right now are 1, have a way to beat the boss. 2, get rid of our ringworms. Now, ringworms, one nice thing about Skullstorm is your starters come with Annoying, which is bad in every single deck except this one. Because they come with Annoying, they have an ability. Because they have an ability, they can be sacrificed at the altar to put that ability on other cards, which means we have a way to get rid of the ringworms that's more likely to happen than if they were just an 0-1 with no abilities. The other way to get rid of them is Campfires. Campfires have a 50% shot to eat your card if you try it twice. If we get an attack boost, we always give it to Mantis. The question is, do we try to give 2 to Mantis? Do we take that risk? If it fails, we just lose the run, but if it succeeds, it's incredible. But here, we give it to Ringworm, and if they eat the Ringworm, it poisons them, and we are guaranteed double boosts at all Campfires in the future. So we're probably not going to get it this time because I never seem to. We got it. Okay. They eat the ringworm. We're already down one ringworm, so we've just raised our odds from 33 to 50% to draw Mantis in our opening hand. And second of all, and even better, we've poisoned the campfire. So we should really be checking the map for future campfires because we are now guaranteed a double boost without being eaten. So if we get +1 attack, this Mantis God's a 3-1. If we get +2 health, this Mantis God's a 1-5. A longer lasting Mantis God is pretty great. We're really all in on Mantis God with this deck. It's just such a good card. Now let's think about where we want to go in the future. We probably should go for the items. I know the pelt is kind of annoying. There is an upside to going to the right. We could get Fecundity on the Mantis God pretty early. Ooh. They're both really nice. There's a lot of games where you'll be like, yeah, I got Fecundity on my Mantis God, I got a Ringworm eaten, then we hit another campfire and I boosted my Mantis God, and I just have no ways to beat the boss. And so I think we should probably prioritize items just to give ourselves a better chance of beating the boss. But I hate going to the Trapper here. I really don't want to go to the Trapper. We're not going to have overkill damage, so we won't be able to buy a skinning knife, which would be great. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to be the kind of, let's build up the Mantis God, and either it'll work, and that'll be great, or it'll show, hey, that's not really the strategy once the Grizzly Bears are on. In a non-Grizzly Bear version, I think we go to the right. I think we trust in our Mantis God, and we're going to boost it as much as possible, and we're just going to have a great Mantis God, and we're going to have a great life. Now, one downside of Mantis God is we can't actually play it here. It dies immediately because it has Annoying. So I think we just have to pass the turn. And it's actually really hard for us to ever play Mantis God as long as they have Mole. So we really need to get rid of Mole before we can land Mantis God. You can see there's a little downside to our 1-1 little Mantis God. So we'll draw a Squirrel here. The last card in our deck, I should remember what it is. Oh, it's the Alpha. So we don't have bones for it, so there's definitely no reason to not draw a Squirrel this turn. And I could draw, but I guess we'll let the Pronghorn hit our Field Mice. And it'll kill it in a couple turns, but we won't take any other damage. And we'll have another Field Mice in the future. And this way we'll get rid of the Mole, and then maybe we'll be able to land the Mantis God. Okay, there's no need to, we don't have 4 bones. Now we're going to take 1 damage here, but 1 damage doesn't kill us. So, we're probably going to end up having to use these items this fight, so let's throw them out. The fur is really annoying, because we'd love to just put the Mantis God down center left, but the fur will kill it, because we do have Annoying. So, I guess I'll... sometimes you sack the Ringworm not to make a blocker. We don't need it here, I'm just showing an idea. But just to create an extra bone. Like, when you're going to sack something anyway, we may as well create the extra bone if we're not going to need the Field Worm as a blocker. So this way, instead of getting 2 bones from the 2 squirrels we sacked, we got 4 bones. Great. We got 3 bones. We got an extra bone. And the extra bone is helpful. Like, it means we can draw Alpha this turn and get a +1 if we want. Now, we might have 5 bones. We might not have needed the extra bone, but let's draw the Alpha. Yeah, we had the bones already. And we could put it here, kill the Pronghorn, but then we do let their Elk Fawn evolve. So let's just put it here. And we're at some point going to put the Mantis God in front of the Grand Fur. On the turn, we're going to KO them anyway. And it'll do 2 damage to each side of it. So it'll still hit them for 4 because it's boosted by the Alpha. And they should be out of cards, so we're just going to time it for whatever does maximal overkill. Which will probably be last possible opportunity. Which sadly is next turn. Okay, actually, if that's the case, then I should put the Mantis God not next to the Alpha. We should hit them with it here. I think this does more. I didn't actually count. We were going to go to 7, and then we would have done 7 on the final turn. We would have done 4 overkill. This way we go to 9, and we also do 4 overkill. Alright, same thing. Sadly, we see the going to the Trapper before we could possibly have gotten, because our deck just wasn't, unless we had managed to keep everything alive, we weren't going to be able to get enough teeth here, right? We had 0 teeth coming in, now we have 4 teeth. We were never going to get to... The pause menu, by the way, it shows teeth right above the red. It shows it here. So we were never going to get enough. Oh, and I don't want the gold pick at all. That would be a terrible spot, because we might be forced to take a 1-drop. It's either a gold pelt or a random insect, and a lot of the insects are like flying ants, which are 1-drops. So normally here I'd take the Warren, because the Warren is the best card here by far, and I love the Warren. Obviously here we are taking the Mealworm, because we do not want to take more 1-drops. And the Mealworm is actually a kind of nice target if we wanted to move abilities. So we should probably put Fecundity on the Mantis God, but we could put Ringworm on the Mealworm, because the Mealworm is mostly sacrifice fodder anyway, and that would get rid of Ringworm and guarantee our Mantis God draw. On the other hand, we are going to put Fecundity on it, because... Now, for the moment, this kind of makes our deck worse, because Field Mice is 2 2/2s for 2, and now we only have 3 cards in the deck that can do damage, which is our Mantis God, the Mantis God our Mantis God creates, and the Alpha. And that's actually pretty limited. So I might have screwed ourselves on the next fight. Like, if we can't put the Mantis Gods down again, if we have nowhere to put them, you can actually just, like, lose because Mantis Gods aren't sufficient output. Now, we're lucky to see no furs here, but it looks like we will be able to land our Mantis Gods, and they're gonna look pretty fun here, because we're gonna get to play both of them. We draw 1. Now, we don't get to play the other immediately. Oh, but I could have if I wasn't an idiot. What I would have done if I was an idiot was I would have sacked the worm. Sorry, I would have sacked the Aqua Squirrel into the Ringworm, then sacked that for the Mantis God. That gets us 2 bones. We could have played the Mealworm. I'm an idiot. This was very foolish. Yeah. So now we have to draw this, but we should have already gotten our 2nd bone, because we should have sacked the Ringworm like this. Mantis Gods, by the way, you always want to put like in the center if you can, because they hit more lanes. We're going to take 5 damage in the swing back this turn, but we are doing 2 damage this turn, so we'll have done 8, so it won't be a problem. The mole will always jump in front of stuff, but if there's a square up to your right, the mole will jump to that square last and will not counter-kill the Mantis God if it has a way to get out of the way on the final hit of the Mantis God. Just something to note. Alright, and our Mantis God dies next turn, so one of them. So, like, there is a chance we run out of power here. Okay, so we're going to kill the Sparrow and do 4, and they'll hit for 3 back, so I should probably... And then we hit for 3 to win. So if we block with the Mealworm, I think we win. Shame we couldn't get up to the Alpha. But right, we're at 3. We do 4, because there's 4 unblocked damage from our Mantis God. 2 will be blocked by the Sparrow, so it's 7. They don't do any damage to us back. And then because they're underwater, our Mantis God will hit for 3 more. Okay. So we don't get any overkill damage, but we do survive this fight. And I actually kind of put us in a bad spot. Maybe I shouldn't have been so eager to... We can't even get out the Alpha because we can't create a 4th bone. That's funny. So we really needed this kill to hit to a kill, or we just lose. You can see, underwater, problem. But anyways, we're playing kind of the standard way the Mantis God deck is played. You know, just boost the Mantis God at all opportunity. Don't try to be clever or anything that, you know, isn't Mantis God related. Now, it's not to say that Mantis God isn't a good card that, like, we can spend time on and have a good time with. It's just to say, like, I do like other styles. So again, normally I'd take the Warren here. And honestly, if I wasn't trying to show this, I'd have considered taking multiple Warrens and just playing this as a normal deck that happens to have Mantis God in it. But I do think that's actually less powerful. I do think the simple Mantis God focused mantra is kind of correct. Because you play the more balanced deck, you have more tools, you beat the first two stages easily. But if something comes bad on the third stage, on the third map, you die. Well, if you have a really good Mantis God, you just have guaranteed wins there if you built with fair hand mechanic in mind. Alright, so this is a shame. We did not get an attack boost. We've been to 2 of these, and we've gotten no attack boosts. But obviously we have to keep boosting Mantis God. And 2 1/5s that hit for 3, right? This is effectively, we have 2 3/5s for 1 mana. We have or more, better said maybe, we have a card that is 3/5 for 1, draw another 3/5. Alright, let's think about our choices after this. I think we gotta go for the items. We just don't have a way to beat the boss. In fact, we might not even be close to having a way to beat the boss. There's double Woodcarver, which is kind of interesting, because if you get Insect and something nice, that affects our Mantis Gods, of which we land 2. But I think it's gotta be go left and get the item here. And we get another chance to get an attack boost on Mantis God from the campfire. And if we get a good item and double attack boost, which if we get attack boost, we get double, that does solve all our problems. So now Mantis God can legitimately just be used as a blocker. So I don't need to be all that cautious about location, but I'm still going to start center right. It will take a hit from the rabbit, and we will take a little more damage, but it doesn't get counter hit by the porcupine. Every time you attack the porcupine, you take a damage. I probably should have put it center left, but oh well, we all make mistakes. And now, I guess, yeah, we just play our other Mantis God. Probably don't play our Mealworm, because we have nothing to sacrifice it to, and I'd rather be able to get out the Alpha in a bit. Double Mantis God is very strong. So if we get the double attack boost, they're both up to 3, and thus, if they're both alive for the second stage of the boss, they can hit 6 in a lane and clear the lane. So we need them not to die, though. I guess if they get up to 3, then Alpha +1 and a kill, like a Scissors, also does it. Because the Alpha gets it to 4 attack, and then it would do 4 to the lane in front of the Alpha as well. Do we lethal them this turn? No, we only do 3. Alright. So no need to put out... Oh, we do more than 3, we do 4. I can't count. Great work to me. Alright, no bonus overkill damage. That's a slight shame. But yeah, I think a ton of Mantis God runs just die at the end of the first world when you find I didn't build to beat the Grizzlies boss. Again, really like to take Warren. Again, I really think I shouldn't. Maybe we can move the Warren ability later to something like the Mealworm or something. I'm going to take the Warren. But the boss is next. The boss, you usually have a little more time to figure something out and don't always need to land stuff immediately. Alright, so we need a kill here. What gives us the most outs? If we get the fan and the bleach, we kill. If we get the pliers, then we kill a little easier on some other things, but not that much easier. I'm going to take the fan. I think that gives us more outs. Okay, have to take the hourglass. But I don't think we can do enough damage unless we get the attack boost here. So we're still fine if we get the attack boost. Yeah, okay, we got the attack boost. Luckily, because our Mantises are attached to each other, all boosts to one go to the other as well. So now, if we have 2 Mantises out against the boss, against the second phase, the Grizzly phase, we use the Hourglass. First turn, the Leech deals 6 to 2 of the Grizzlies, and 3 to each of the others, but 6 to 2 of them, which will clear them. And then turn 2, which we get from the Hourglass, they get the kill. One interesting use of the fan here might be, if we need to not kill something, we can use the fan to not hit it. Unlikely to be relevant. Alright, so we got Mantis Gods. We have the Hourglass. Do we go for it immediately? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. So we play the Warren here to create a second sacrificial fodder. The Warren works really well here. That gets us the rabbit. Now we can double Mantis God. We do 6, and then we can Hourglass to finish. Yeah. Incidentally, if I ever misclick, like, on something really obvious where I was clearly going to win, I probably will save scum cheat it. But that has not happened yet. Look at how much overkill damage that does. What did they just hit for? Between them? That's 18 this turn. Now, the overkill doesn't matter on phase 1, but still. We are not going to be in teeth. We're not going to have problems getting teeth here. So let's main deck. It's a shame we don't have quite enough bones, and we can't use the ringworm to get another bone here. We're going to use the Hourglass to pass the turn. I'm going to use the fan just for giggles. Give our boulder flying, that's very important. Alright, so I think this has basically come perfectly. Like, this is basically just what you want to get with the Mantis God deck, is some way to have multiple Mantis Gods. You need items for the bosses at least early, but every deck does. And you just set up Fair Hand Mechanic on your Mantis Gods, and it's great. Oh, I should have drawn a squirrel, because I could have gotten the alpha out, and we could have gotten more overkill. But we are not going to be... we are going to get a lot of overkill here. We are going to get lots of teeth. This is one of the decks where you could buy gold pelts at the trader if you wanted, because you will get enough teeth. I don't know that you'd particularly want to. You have limited choice of rares, and they might not be cards you want in your deck. As long as we have Fair Hand Mechanic going, where Mantis God is our only 0 or 1 drop, we're fine having other kinds of cards. Okay, Wolf is decent damage. I like Wolf. I think not Coyote, given we already have some requirements on Bones. It's also nice to get the bosses in the normal order. We have a very good shot of completing this run. Mantis God, in general, is you are significantly lower chance than normal to beat the first map, I think, than some other decks. But if you do, you are in amazing shape. Now, there's some risk to going for the busted card, because you can get locked into a 1-drop, but you can anywhere else too. I think the most important thing right now is actually just to get rid of the Warren and the Ringworm. We really want to get Fair Hand Mechanic going. So I am going to go for the only thing that can get rid of a card. There's an argument I should be going for items already. We can get rid of a second card up ahead, and we can get rid of the Warren here. So should I grab the items and keep the Warren in the deck a little longer? I think no, because up left we can go to the Trapper Trader, and we can get the knife there, and a knife is sufficient for us to be able to beat bosses. Beat the Grizzlies. So, let's see what challenge you got for us. I just always take 3 sigils if it's there. Wolf is the one card that doesn't have a sigil in our deck, but like already Mantis God is 3 sigils, right? So it's just so easy to pass that one. If you want to pass, sometimes you don't, because you don't want a card because it's interesting. I guess it's got to be the Great White. The Great White's pretty funny. I kind of hate the Great White, but also it can sacrifice for 3 blood, so you can easily get out any other card to replace it once it's played. Yeah, let's go the Great White here. Card I normally despise because it can't block. We did have a run on one of the other decks where I had a pretty useful Great White, but that is my least favorite 3-drop, I think. And I don't like 3-drops very much. So we can get rid of the Ringworm here. And obviously the Warren is a better card than the Ringworm. So we'll chuck the Ringworm. And where should we put it? I think I want to get the Warren's ability on the closest to a free cost card, so the Mealworm. So I think I'm not going to put the Ringworm on the Mealworm. I think I'll put the Ringworm... I might want to move the Mud Turtle's ability somewhere else someday. I might move the Warren to the Alpha. Just make the Alpha great. Let's put it on... the mealworm. Okay, I've talked myself into the mealworm as the card. This might be wrong. Because the Warren creates blood, right? Essentially creates free sacrifice. And the alpha isn't that easy to get out early. So, but we are going to get a free bone every fight soon. And normal fights are just going to be so trivial as soon as we clear out our other one drop. Because, again, we can just play the Mantis God. And we actually get up to 2 bones. Yeah, I should have put it on the mealworm. That was a mistake. I should have saved it. So, sorry, I should have put Warren's ability on the mealworm, because when we give up our next one drop, it's in a way that will give us 1 bone at the start of each fight. The X thing, you choose a card to cut from your deck, and you get permanently at the start of each game you get a bone in exchange for it from the card dying, I guess. So that means when we play our first Mantis God, we're going to buy the knife here. We get our second bone of the fight, which means we have enough to play the mealworm immediately, which means if we could put a nice ability on the mealworm, that will come up a lot. Sadly, not the case. All right, I see a great thing coming up. I don't know if you spotted it, but I'm very excited about something coming up. So we're going to give up the Warren here. And actually, we probably should have put the Warren's... Yeah, I was thinking we'd get to move the Warren's ability too, but we don't. We're just giving it up. So I really should have kept the Ringworm a little longer. But now, Mantis God is our only 1 drop. And so we have to keep it that way. We're going to go to the right because I see Goobert, the painter, and we're going to create more Mantis Gods. And this is just going perfectly. This is just what it looks like when Mantis God goes perfectly. You know, you just instantly do 9 damage, right? And it's a much quicker run than any of the others, because with such a powerful thing on Fair Hand mechanic, all the normal fights take no time at all. So it's much quicker to run through these, and it's so clear what the game plan is, right? We can get rid of 1 Ringworm to the campfires if we're lucky, and we got lucky. Then we get huge campfire boosts, which makes it easier to boost the Mantis God. Boosting the Mantis God is the single most useful thing to boost in the game, because it is the only thing that gets triple power from each boost inherently. And yeah. So here we don't want to take a 1 drop. That would be the biggest mistake possible. Kind of tempted... No, let's not do that. Let's take the Opossum. 2 bones is pretty cheap. Gets in the way slightly of alpha. We do want to put some higher powered stuff in our deck at some point, because our Mantises may die in the final fights. And if they do die to, say, the cannon, then we need some power. But we already have some power, and we're just going to be in such good shape, especially after this Goobert, right? Because we're creating another Mantis God, and we might go to the Mycologist and combine them, which just seems like overkill. So most decks are like, it's a tricky beginning, but the game stays tricky. And often if you beat the first boss, you're kind of in good shape. All right, slightly worse, but that's okay. But like, each map has a chance to kill you. I definitely have deaths with every deck on every map kind of thing. But with the Mantis God deck, if you get through the first map, there is a very good shot you're completing the run. Because, again, you just have no risk, basically, if you're well set up to normal fights. Your only risk is bosses. And because you know your only risk is bosses, you can make picks with that in mind. And again, even our slightly worse Mantis God here is going to get easy overkill. Also note the Opossum was a nice pickup, because after we sacrifice for that, we always have our second bone, because we start with a bone, and that means we could play the Opossum and sack to our other Mantis God for even more overkill. Okay, what do we want to do? We're going to get a campfire regardless. I would like not to be forced into something undesirable. So often when you're in the Mantis God deck, you take the blood option. And I think I will. The Mycologist would be nice. We could combine our 3-5 and 2-5 Mantis gods into a 5-10 Mantis god. That would be fantastic. But I don't want the risk of getting another 1-drop in the deck and removing the reliability we built. So here we can guarantee we just don't pick the 1-drop option. We pick, let's say, the 2-drop option. Sure, Red Heart sucks. That's fine. It doesn't interfere with the main thing we're doing. All right, we got the Trapper. The Trapper's a little annoying, but not that annoying. And we got +1 attack. That's wonderful. All right, so again, we want to put it on Mantis God. The question is which one? Getting up to 5-5 is not worth that much to me, so I think we'll get this one up to 4-5, right? If it got up to 6, that would be a big jump because it could kind of solo a Grizzly, right? It could solo 3 Grizzlies at once, in fact. But getting up to 5 is not. Maybe it is that useful because it means if we have a kill item, it's an instant kill, and we do have a kill item. On the other hand, we may get our chance here. Are we going to get lucky? That's okay, though. It is nice to get our Mantis gods to have a little more health because they do die to a single hit from a Grizzly, and now they won't die to a single hit from a Grizzly. And I'm going to put it on the one with a little more damage, just because I think that one lasting longer is probably worth a little more. It does mean we really want that to be the one we draw, because a bunch of our Mantises are going to die this fight because of the Bullfrogs, or the Strange Frogs. It really feels nice when the Mantis God deck gets going because it's just like the second half of the game feels trivially easy, unless bosses trip you up. But it also makes it less interesting because the last one I thought there were interesting decisions the whole way. All right, we got our good Mantis. And we got the Alpha just in case to boost it, which actually is nice because I was wrong. Getting to 5 power is very relevant here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our first Mantis God to kind of clear out the frogs. Maybe we should have waited a turn, let them come down, so that it would die next turn, because actually now it will clear lanes for the leaping traps. Right, so I probably should have thought about this more, but... so our Mantis God will die. What do we need? I'd really like enough blood for the Alpha, because the Alpha plus the other Mantis God is sufficient. So we're going to get a 3rd blood when our Mantis God dies. And then a 4th blood when we sacrifice. We're going to get a 4th blood when we sacrifice to the Mantis God, and that will let us play the Alpha, and that should be it. I'm gonna take a squirrel here because we just need 5 damage because we need the Knight plus the Mantis Gods 4 plus 1 from the Alpha. That's enough to do 5 to a lane. Sadly, our Mantis God dies as we end this phase, which is a shame. Would have been nice to keep it going, but actually, did we complete? Yeah, we did complete the phase. I was thinking it only hit once. There was a chance we hadn't done enough damage. Now all Grizzlies, and we have an empty board, but not a problem. Let's do another squirrel. We have a lot of squirrels, so I'm actually gonna play the red heart as well. Just for fun, because we'll actually be boosting it a bit this turn. And then we'll put the Mantis God here. And it won't actually get us any extra damage, but the Alpha. And we'll put the pelts here just for giggles. And we have to remember to use the knife. And that's it. You're really item reliant in Skullstorm. I think you can't. There's not a good path to beating Skullstorm that doesn't use items heavily. as like a major target. That was one of the big things I had to start focusing on when I started playing Skullstorm. Is I kind of really focused on deck building, not on making sure I hit items. Items are very valuable. And yeah. Pleased I don't have to do too many Mantis God runs, presuming I don't screw this one up. Obviously, we can't take the Skink. Let's take the Pronghorn. Being able to do damage to the thing next to you can help push through that extra 1 damage that's occasionally needed. It'd be nice to have some tutoring. I'd like to pick up a Magpie somewhere. Alright, which way do we want to go? Left is items, and there's a Goobert, but we do hit the Beast Totem, or the Tribe Totem, which could give us a 1-drop, and we don't necessarily have a way to get rid of 1-drops. On the right, we get a little more choices, we get a Campfire, and we get a way to get rid of a card. I'm going to go right, even though it doesn't get us items. Hopefully we can grab them later, just as I was talking about the importance of items. Alright, we can't take the Flying Ant, can't take the Black Goat, that's an easy Mealworm. We do get a Campfire this way, though. And hopefully we get an item down the road before the boss. And that's a good Campfire, because we have now hit 6 damage on one of our Mantis Gods. Which means this Mantis God can now, as long as we have both Mantis Gods out, solo the Grizzlies. So that's a big stat boost. Would have been nice to create more Mantis Gods going the other way, but again, we can lethal any of these random fights in 1 turn, so the only question is if we have problems on the boss, which again means items are really valuable, but wasn't a good way to play into that here. It's nice that we'll get a second automatic bone from the card destroyer, because a second bone means we can play opossums or mealworms for free, and that makes it easier for us to double play Mantis Gods. Really is a very straightforward deck to play. And card selection is mostly just avoiding picking up 1-drops. It is kind of interesting if you play the Mantis God as a deck and don't go for Fair Hand Mechanic and just have it as like, that's a really good card in my deck, but you don't reliably beat the later stages so well. So there is a case that I should try to fail this trial, because we might get locked into a 1-drop, and if we pass the trial, if we fail the trial, we don't get a card. Well, what I did was I tried to pass, and we might see all 1-drops, and that would suck. But if we don't, this is usually the way. Okay, so we can't take Wolf Cub. Elk dodges and evolves, that's pretty nice. Wolf comes back to your hand and spawns ants that will also have Undying. So Wolf gives us a guaranteed win basically on the final boss, because it means there's just kind of infinite cards you can play. And that's probably the answer. It also means if we go to the Mycologist, maybe I'll double up our wolves and make those just huge. Like, 6/4 wolf sounds not that impressive compared to our Mantis Gods, but it could do work. What do we want to get rid of? Definitely not the 2 bone costs cards. Those cards are great for us. Definitely not the new wolf or the great white. Not the alpha. Probably the red heart. I hate the red heart. Yeah, let's chuck the red heart. You can combo infinitely with it occasionally, but like, I've never. Oh no, I did do so. I did so on I think I did so. I think that was the one we went infinite with, the first when I did. All right, we will get items up ahead, and so we probably should. We also can get rid of our pelt, because we don't have items, and we don't have any item generation. We do beat every fight the easiest. I'm just repeating myself at this point. I apologize. There's just not a lot to say. This is kind of how the deck works when it works well, and you get so much overkill here. We can even play a second one, because we now have... I guess we didn't need the extra bone generation, but we needed at least 1 extra bone to be able to do this from a mealworm. Yeah. This was basically the platonic ideal of this kind of run. Again, I'm talking like it's over, but it's... When the Mantis God run gets going, you do just win. Very rare to lose a run late. And like one thing I like about the Bones deck, one reason I think the Bones deck might be my favorite to play, is it feels like the only one where I have a solid chance to win or lose on all three maps that's like kind of similar. That I feel like it's the one that most keeps kind of the same difficulty-ish throughout, instead of feeling like, you've solved your problems, now it's easy, or you have tons of problems and maybe later it's we didn't have a pelt. But we still wanted to go this way because we got to get the items. I thought we had picked up a pelt somewhere. Okay, so you definitely take the bleach over the fan, because bleach plus fan wins in either order, but if you only end up with one and not the other, you'd rather have the bleach. Okay, we'll take the magnifying glass. If we can force ourselves to be able to draw uh, the better mantis, then we just win. There is another item draw, so we could use the bleach here and re-roll that. But if we could, I'd kind of like to keep the bleach for the final boss, and I think we can use the magnifying glass to guarantee a win on the penultimate boss. And then we can use the bleach on the final boss, which I haven't done, I think, on any of these runs yet. And that's a nice way to play. Because it stops hitting all squares, so suddenly your Mantis God can just hit at it forever without being hit in response if you just don't put it in the far left. Because it has hit every square, but if it loses that ability, it only hits the far left. And you can just junk it for eternity. So, yeah, I didn't want to do items, but I don't want to go the tribal way, so I'm still going to go to the right. And we'll get a pack rat, I guess, because I just want more chance to knock it a one-drop. And we love to see mealworms. We know mealworm is great in this deck. Just the ability to play both Mantis Gods turn 1 is worth so much. Now, is it worth that much when we already one-shot our opponents? I guess not, but you can see how many teeth we're pouring out there. We love to see it. All right, we got the Mantis Totem, which means if we beat this boss, we might go for a second. We might go to the Woodcarver because we got the Insect Totem, which means our Mantises get whatever ability comes. And if we get another busted ability, we'll be very pleased, right? We get the Pack Rat here. And we have the... So one actually tricky thing about the Angler is he puts the bait on the far left and far right, and if you kill the bait, he gets a 4/2 Great White. The tricky part here is the Mantis Gods can't not kill the bait. So we really need the Mantis God to just, when it lands, one shot, because if the fight continues, you can be in serious trouble. Now, I think we'll just be playing to win immediately. All right, we got our bad Mantis. So our bad Mantis can't win immediately. So, yeah, because it clears out a row but doesn't do any more. So I'm going to use the search, get out our good Mantis, and win immediately. Because we can immediately double up because we got a 2 bone cost card, which is great. And he will say go fish to us when we kill his bucket. But these together beat the boss because they do 6 to each. One of them clears out the grizzlies and the other hits the empty squares. And we're going to keep the bleach for the final boss. Go fish, he'll say. There we go. And phase 2. Does he say go fish twice? No, interesting. I didn't know whether he did or not. Okay. So this boss down. Let's draw... You know what? Let's play a third Mantis. Unnecessary. Let's put it over here. I think it will hit more empty squares over here, right? Because if it starts on the left, it goes first and won't hit any empty squares. So for maximum overkill, go to the right. We're going to do 18 damage, I guess? 6, 12, and then 6 more from the other Mantis God. So we never got a chance to combine our Mantis Gods into 6, 9 plus 3, 5 equals 9, 14. Or I guess we probably did have chances, but I thought other paths were better to keep the deck reliable. That is the disciplined thing to do. Is like at this point our deck has won unless we screw it up. So we're really in the mode, and I've talked about this before in other videos, but we're really in the mode of how can our deck lose? It can lose if we screw up our fair hand mechanic abuse. So we can't take other one drops. Alright. We'll take the corpse maggots here. Easy pick. Can't take other one drops. That would be the way to blow it. And now we have one final interesting decision. We're obviously not going to the pelt trader because we don't have pelts. There's not much point to going to the sacrificial altar. But the question is, do we want a second item? Or do we want to get a totem that will affect our mantis gods? And I want to get a totem. I think it also hits the mealworms. I'm pretty sure those are insects. They sure seem like they should be. So like sometimes you're just gonna blank here, but obviously sometimes you're just gonna blank if you get an item. But if you're in a tribe and that's your like, especially if that's your one drop, you're guaranteed one drop. All right. So I guess we'll take Death Touch. Death Touch not very relevant because they kill everything one hit anyway. But I guess it's a little relevant because they have the 1/8 blockers, and it means we just clear those out extra quickly. So actually, okay, that's not bad. I was hoping for like Undying or something ridiculously broken, but or like a double strike or like bifurcated strike added, and so instead of just hitting 3 times, we hit 1,000,000 times. But certainly can't complain about Death Touch here. All right, I would like to start with our weaker Mantis God, please. And we're only gonna okay. We start with the stronger one. Maybe we'll start with both actually. But we're only gonna play. We only can play one of them, but I only want to play one of them because I really don't want the cannons to take them out. One other thing to note is we're probably gonna have to block the far left. They only attack the far left, but I think it goes face if it's not blocked. That was weird slowdown. I think it goes face if it's not blocked, and we don't want them to hit us in the face, at least not more than twice, because we're going to remove their hit every square ability. Oh, actually, it's going to be hilarious. We also remove their resistance to Death Touch when we use the Magical Bleach. This is one of the easy ways to beat the final bosses. Is Death Touch. I totally forgot that we could hit that because our deck wasn't doing it at all. So actually, I will put down our second Mantis God. We'll only have Mantis Gods on the field. That seems fitting. That's not the card I meant to click. So watching this, I think you'd really think the Mantis God deck is the best deck. We really had a lot of luck this run. Like, I think this was a very lucky run. Our Mantis Gods got buffed immediately. We got items that could beat the boss. It's kind of hard for Mantis Gods to beat the bosses on their own before they start getting big stat boosts. Like, basically everything came perfect here. And the reason I don't think the Mantis God is as good a deck as, say, the zero-cost deck is just, oh, we got the Ringworm. The first Ringworm campfire we went to, it sacrificed and they ate it. If it had gotten the 2+2s, we'd have a 1/5 or a 0/5 useless Ringworm in our deck, and we wouldn't have guaranteed boosts after that. Like, everything came exactly right here. And when that happens, you win very trivially. But it's why I think other decks have a little more maneuverability. So here we got rid of all their abilities, and now when we hit it, the stone rock boulder thing is the resistance to Death Touch. So this will kill it, and now we will do massive overkill. Yeah, you should be able to scarce believe it. So the Magical Bleach, really fun item for the final boss. Both, I was going to show that it makes it not be able to attack every square, so you can keep hitting at it with the same stuff forever instead of having it eventually kill them. But this worked very cleanly. Also very quick run. All the speed runs of like, can you beat this the fastest? You have to run this deck if you're going to try to speed run, right? I've never tried, but pretty clear, you know. You beat the normal fight so much quicker when things come right. And so what you do there is if the first campfire you hit is a +2 to health, you try to get a Ringworm to be sacrificed so that you get guaranteed boosts to the Mantis gods in the future. But if you get your first as a +1, I think the right decision is just to make your Mantis god a 2/1 and go from there. But there is a really interesting choice. Do you go for 3/1 on the Mantis god, and if the Mantis god dies, well, you just lose and you start a new run, right? And I think if you're having trouble beating this, you should do that and just restart if it doesn't come. But if it does come, starting with a 3/1 Mantis god is such a big boost. But also, if you're speed running, you want to beat it as fast as possible, so you just got to roll the dice every time. So if you're speed running, you definitely try to do 3/1 there. Um, and I think if you're a beginner player, you are like not used to beating Skullstorm, not necessarily a beginner, but you're new to Skullstorm, I think you also take that risk. But a 2/1 Mantis God is great, and I think the correct decision for overall win percentage is just to accept the 2/1 Mantis God and not roll for it. So that's what I was going to do if that choice came up. But instead, we got the absolute perfect Mantis God run. Made it look so trivial, which it really does. You can see, I mean, the cards drawn here, the count is so much lower. I think it was like 140 or so the last run. Most scale damage, 36, is way more than other decks are doing. I had to sacrifice way fewer swirls. I think the last one, the number there was like 60, and sacrifices was 80. Like, it's an absolute powerhouse when it gets going. And it was the first one I beat this with, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Next time we'll do the goats. That's 4 down. I think Bones took 1 try on camera, but like I went 2 for 10, including when it didn't record properly. Null went 1 for 2. Bones went like 1 for 9. Or sorry, Eggs went like 1 for 9, 1 for 10, something like that. And Mantis beat it first time. And it was my first attempted record, unlike Bones. But I think the Zero deck's the best deck here. I think the Zero deck is the most reliable to have a shot. But when the Mantis deck comes good, it comes better than anything else. And that's it.